Hi, this is Na, and welcome back to my channel where I like to talk about my journey with my double amputated legs. So this is the video where everybody's been waiting for, where I tell the story about how I lost my legs and the timeline as to when I lost my legs. So it all started probably in April of 2016 when I started having feet pain. And more specifically, I had toe pain in my right leg, right foot. And so they misdiagnosed me a few times, thought it was an ingrown toenail, then they thought it was an infection. And then after that, the toe just started dying. It started turning black. My family doctor tried to manage the pain. I was put on a lot of pain medication. Sorry about that. So anyways, my family doctor tried to manage the pain. It lasted for quite some time. I went through the infectious diseases department at the hospital because they thought I had some infectious disease in my foot, which I didn't. I was put on several rounds of antibiotics, didn't work. And throughout this whole time, my toe just continued to die and continued to cause a lot of pain. Come October, November, December, my coworkers can say that I was pretty much in pain. I couldn't wear my normal shoes anymore. I had to wear like flip-flops, and then winter came, and then I bought like these giant boots to wear because I couldn't fit into my shoes because it was so painful. Then I started working part-time because my doctor thought I needed to elevate my feet more. And then ended up going on to short-term disability. Then I went back to work because I felt fine. Well, not fine, but I felt like the pain medication was actually managing the pain. And then all of a sudden one day I went on short-term, and then I never came back. Come around January, I think it was near the end of January, where I was at my parents' house for dinner, and I was in so much pain I couldn't put my foot down to the ground. I couldn't move, so I ended up sleeping at my parents' house that night because I was in so much pain. At that time, I was on fentanyl, I was on morphine, I was on a like ridiculously high amounts, and then I learned that your body kind of adjusts to the pain medication that you take. So the more you take doesn't mean that you'll overdose. So there's no really overdose threshold, where I kept asking the pharmacist, is there a threshold that I shouldn't go over? And he's like, well, no, it's your body. Your body will tell you when you've gone over. That morning I called my doctor, really close to, I've got a great team of doctors that have been managing my disease since the beginning. So I had my family doctor's cell phone, called him, said I was in so much pain, don't know what to do. He said go to the hospital. He couldn't prescribe me any more pain medication. So I head off to the hospital, and I'd been there before, had been there, sent to the emerge before, and they had sent me home on just more pain medication. So at this point I was really frustrated and emotional, and I felt like if they send me home again on more drugs, I just don't know what to do. We had already pulled strings, and I had an appointment to see an orthopedic surgeon, and I kind of knew that the solution was probably going to be amputation. Had gone to see a vascular surgeon. He said it was the microvascular system, and they can't really do anything to fix the micro system. So going in the hospital, and then things started, in my memory, things started to come and go. Don't really remember much. In February, it was blank for me. Pretty much February was, I was there, but I wasn't there. So my family can probably, or Danny can probably tell this part of the story better, but because I wasn't there. But from my perspective, the last memory I had was sitting on the main floor of the hospital, visiting with my family, and then I remember shaking so much that my cell phone flew out of my hand, and then that was it. I didn't remember anything else. and from what I've been told, I kind of went into a comatose state where I was more like a sleepwalker. I wasn't really mentally there. I don't remember most of February. Um, my They ended up having to call code 66 in the hospital for me, which is basically the code below code blue. It's pretty dangerous. You're at a dangerous point where you haven't arrived at cardiac arrest, but close to. So I was pretty much in what Danny keeps calling a coma state, where I wasn't very aware. I was hallucinating. I had hallucinations. I had paranoia. I basically had overdosed on the amount of opioids I had been taking. My kidneys, which already weren't working that well, couldn't filter them out quick enough, so I ended up overdosing on opioids. And then for the month of February, which was really blurry to me, I remember certain things, but I definitely did not live in this world. Like, it was this world but altered. And it was a glimpse into what a person who was addicted to opioids would feel, I'm assuming. They ended up Danny said they had to restrain me because I was a danger to myself. They had to do a round of emergency dialysis, and then they amputated my leg and did another emergency dialysis. And then after the second round of dialysis, I started coming back, but I couldn't remember my family. And during that time, it was probably the hardest, because they would come in and they would be like, "Do you remember me?" And I'd be like, "No." Like, I would remember some and I wouldn't remember any. I remembered my nephew, but I couldn't remember my sister. But over the next few days after that, memory started coming back and I started remembering everybody. My brothers, my sisters, my parents. And then I started really coming back. And I feel like the moment I made a nah joke, if you know me, I make nah jokes a lot, which are inappropriate jokes at inappropriate times. So I made an inappropriate joke. I believe it was about my leg missing, and the whole room just kind of laughed. And then it felt like there was like this huge sigh of relief in the room, because everybody was like, my sister's like, "No, she's back, she's back." So I think it was a period of a lot of fear for my family, and it really saddens me to know that I put them through that. But it was a moment of fear that they would lose me, B, they would never get me back, C, that there would be permanent brain damage. So anyways, so after that, they always try to save your as many joints as possible. So they did a below the knee surgery first, and then I kept getting infections and fevers, and so they ended up having to multiple surgeries to try to see if they could still save the knee. And at the end of the day, they couldn't. Ended up doing above knee for my right leg. And then while all this was happening, my left foot started dying, and my left foot died at a crazy fast pace. And like the doctors at the hospital, it's a team that comes sees you, and one doctor comes see me 3 days later. My foot was pretty much dying. She came back and she's like, "I can't believe how fast your foot has died." It was literally like death came for my left foot, and it like turned black like this. Like it was really crazy. The physiatrist, who is a doctor that takes care of your healing and like your physical healing and your prosthetics, came and saw me, and he said he's seen this so many times, they're not going to be able to save that foot. Even though they tried to do some things to save it, they couldn't. So at the end of the day, they ended up doing that below the knee at first, and then again it didn't heal, wasn't healing, infections, so they ended up doing above the knee. So all in total, I had 6 surgeries between the months of early February to beginning mid-March. So my last surgery was in mid-March. while I was in the hospital, they were trying to figure out why I lost my legs and such. So they went through a few diagnoses, and one diagnosis was that I had this disease called calciphylaxis. When I looked it up, I really didn't feel like I had it. But if that's what the pathology report showed, that I lost my legs because of this disease, then I better listen to the doctor. So for 4 weeks, they had me on 5 days a week dialysis, increasing. So I went from 4 hours to 5 hours to 6 hours. In the hospital, what happens is every 2 weeks, a new team comes on. A new team takes over your case. So I had gone through 2 teams that kind of agreed with the same diagnosis. And then I hit the 3rd team that came, and the doctor, he was the first doctor that actually looked and then examined my body. And he said he does not believe I have calciphylaxis. And the day I was supposed to start a 7-hour dialysis schedule, he stopped the dialysis altogether, which was great because I was like, I hated dialysis. It was like not the best thing. Like laying there being connected to a machine for 6 hours, 5 hours, it just wasn't like, it was just for me. Like, anyways, so he took me off of dialysis, put me back on my regular medication, and then put me on my regular medication. Then he basically got me ready to go home. So I started physiotherapy, like pretty crazy in the hospital. And then I was able to go home in May. There are certain things that you need to have in place before you go home. I got to go home for a visit, and just to see how I would get around the house and what I needed to get done. The occupational therapist came and met me there. We went through the whole house. What I would need for my bed, what I needed for the washroom, what I needed for the house in general. And then I had to go back to the hospital. It was bittersweet, a little frustrating. I got to see my dog Peanut, who I hadn't seen in 2 months. And then I was sent back to the hospital. So one of the things that they needed was a ramp, and my dad built me a ramp in one day, with the help of my brother, my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law, and Danny. They built a ramp. It's a beautiful ramp, and they took pictures. I showed my physiotherapist. I'm like, I've got a ramp. I'm ready to go home. And they were like so shocked already. And they asked my dad if he could build more ramps for other people. My dad like, no. Like, my dad's close to 70. He did it for his daughter because he wants his daughter to come home. 3 months in the hospital was hard. And it was hard on everybody because I always had someone with me. Always. I was never left alone, which is great. And it was a huge help for my healing. Danny would stay overnight with me, and then my parents would come in the morning to relieve him. He'd go home and shower and rest for a bit, work, come back to relieve my parents, and then my parents would go home. They would come in and just hang out with me. They had their iPads. We were all on the internet, just hanging out. But the comfort that they were there, because you go from a life with legs, and then all of a sudden you have no legs, and then all of a sudden you lose your independence. You can't use the washroom by yourself. You can't even get out of bed at first because the surgical wound. I couldn't get out of bed until after the surgical wound had healed. After it healed, I had to learn how to get onto a wheelchair, sit in a wheelchair, get from the wheelchair onto the toilet. I had to learn pretty much everything. It was crazy, and it's still crazy to me that I'm still having that I'm not learning anymore, that it's just second nature. I just look at things, I'm like, oh, I need to go from there to here or there to here, and it just happens, and I get it done. And it's ridiculous how strong I've become. those that know me before, I was pretty weak. I probably never could carry a 4-liter jug for very long. But now I can lift my own body weight. I can lift my dog who's 20 pounds and actually wrestle with her. So it's great. It's life, and the people around me make me feel like I'm not handicapped, that I'm me, that I'm still able to be me. It's just me without legs. I never used them before. I always joke about I never used them before, so I'm not going to use them again. It's not like I wanted to be a marathon runner, so there's no need to be sad because, oh no, I was never going to be able to run a marathon. Well, I would have never wanted to run a marathon to begin with, so it's not something to be sad about. And so that's my story on how I lost my legs. Still to this day, they don't really know why. They have some theories, but they don't know exactly why. But I have doctors following me for my vascular disease to make sure it doesn't happen to my hands. And then and to follow up with my health and my kidneys and such. So I'm just waiting on a potential kidney transplant. My family has been tested, but not healthy enough to donate. I still have Danny, and he's in a pairing program, which is a program where if a loved one wants to give to their loved one, but they don't match, but they might match me and Danny might match them, we could do a swap. And we're waiting on my doctor as him and the surgeons kind of argue back and forth. We've gotten conflicted information, so still waiting on that. So in the meantime, I'll be on dialysis, and I'm on hemodialysis at the hospital right now. As you can see, I have a central line here that's always in, and that connects directly to my heart. For those of you who don't know what dialysis is, I'll probably have another video that explains that and the different types of dialysis. But that in a nutshell, that's my story. If it wasn't for my friends, family, support, my coworkers are awesome. They would send me notes. Their kids sent me notes. It was just amazing, the amount of support that I had, and I knew that I had to be strong for them, if not for myself. Because really throughout this whole thing, I've learned that I don't really suffer. I may be the one that lost their legs, or I may be the one who goes into surgery, but I don't remember the surgeries. I fall asleep and then I wake up. Whereas my family, who sits in the waiting room eagerly and anxiously waiting to see if I'm going to wake up, they're the ones that are suffering, and they're the ones who had to go through it, and they're the ones that I feel bad for, and they're the ones who are seriously the strong ones, because they have to watch me. And recently the shoe was put on the other foot. My younger brother broke his leg and he was in the hospital, and I knew he was going to be fine, but as soon as I saw him after surgery, I tried to keep it together, but it really hit me here, and because it really made me realize just how much fear and how much anxiousness that my family went through when each time I went into surgery, and it was 6 times, and the fact that they almost lost me when they called code, and how scary that is for them. They really went through more than I did, and they are strong, and I think that they are so much stronger than me to be able to do that, and to be able to come visit me every day in the hospital and look at me and not cry, even though I was in so much pain and there was nothing they could do about it. So really, I thank them, and I thank my family every day, and I thank Danny every day, and I thank my siblings, and I thank my friends and family, because it's for them. This is for them. I'm strong for them, and I'm pushing forward for them, because I could just give up and take the easy way out, but I can't, because I have absolutely no right to do so. So that's my story about losing my legs. So I made a little slideshow for our timeline between October through to now. It's just kind of shows that, you know, I always am smiling. The one constant thing through this whole thing is that my smile hasn't changed and my smile hasn't left. And I want people to know that it is a struggle to get there, and it was a struggle to get there. And so I just hope you enjoy this slideshow that I made, just to show that you can see that I'm smiling in some of my earlier pictures, even though I was in a lot of pain and on the fentanyl patch, and then all of them in the hospital, and then all the support that came in for me while I was on sick leave from work. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. And if you do, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button below right here. Or is it on this side? Anyways, and then don't forget to hit that bell too. The bell next to the subscribe button actually is the notification button, which will then send you an email when there's new videos that are uploaded, if you want to be notified. If not, just come visit whenever, and because there'll be videos posted. I'm gonna try to post a video every week and on my adventures and just on my life in general. Hope you like this video. Hopefully it wasn't too long-winded, and if you have any questions, I'm an open book. Just put your questions in the comments and I will for sure answer them. I read all my comments. I don't get that many right now. I'd love to have more. I'm pretty sure people have questions. So if you have questions, don't be shy, ask them. I'm an open book. If you ask anybody, I've always been an open book about my lupus, about anything, and even about my legs. When people come visit and you know they have questions but they're too shy to ask, or they don't want to ask, and so just put them down below. I'll answer them. There's no question that's too personal. I'm not like that. I'll share any detail that you want. I try not to share them out in open like this in case people don't want to know. But if you specifically want to ask a question, or you're an amputee out there and you have questions, just put them in the comments and I will answer them. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the slideshow.
You and I, we're like fireworks and symphonies exploding in the sky. With you, I'm alive. Like all the missing pieces of my heart, they finally collide. So stop time right here in the moonlight, 'cause I don't ever wanna close my eyes. Without you, I feel broke, like I'm half of a whole. Without you, I've got no hand to hold. Without you, I feel torn like a sail in a storm. Without you, I'm just a sad song. I'm just a sad song. With you, I fall. It's like I'm leaving all my past in silhouettes upon the wall. With you, I'm a beautiful mess. It's like we're standing hand in hand with all our fears upon the edge. So stop time right here in the moonlight, 'cause I don't ever wanna close my eyes. Without you, I feel broke, like I'm half of a whole. Without you, I've got no hand to hold. Without you, I feel torn like a sail in a storm. sad song. I'm just a sad song.